Several times, the outdoor KZ team participated in the mysterious lakes of Semirechye expedition. It turned out so fascinating to look for the most picturesque lakes in the mountains that we decided to go beyond the borders of our dear Seven Rivers region and hit Turkestan region to see the turquoise lake Makpal. Enthusiastic posts about it have been exciting the tourist community for several years already. The lucky ones who have actually made it to the location wrote that the lake was truly magnificent, but that it was not easy to get to the place. Central Asia has been attracting adventurers since the times of Marco Polo. In their notes, medieval mavericks filled this semi-mythical area at the world's end with fantastic creatures and unprecedented miracles and riddles. To this day, this mysterious region attracts Western tourists with its landscapes and biological diversity. Together with the Outdoor KZ Permanent TV expedition, you will travel to the most picturesque corners of Central Asia, get acquainted with its flora and fauna, and immerse yourselves in the everyday life and traditions of the people living in the wild. The age of Turkestan region can be counted differently. This unit has appeared on the administrative map of modern Kazakhstan quite recently, although the history of Turkestan and Turkestan land is much older than that of southern Kazakhstan region. For many centuries, Turkestan has been the center of spiritual and political life of Kazakhstan. Unique concentration of historical monuments on the region's territory makes it an extremely attractive location for both domestic and foreign tourists. The Outdoor KZ expedition has already acquainted its audience with the cultural sites in the area. We have also seen the Sirdarya River and the Karatau Mountains. Today we will go to one of the most remote and inaccessible corners of the region. To access an especially protected area, one needs to get a special permit. So the Outdoor KZ team is heading to the office of the National Park. The Sairam Ugam National Nature Park was established 11 years ago. Our staff have been diligently working all these years, and as of today, a lot has been done in terms of developing ecotourism in the area. The land in the area is rented out. Every year the number of tourists is growing, whereas in 2016 we had 19,680 tourists. In 2017 already over 23,000 people came to visit the park. This indicates the increasing interest among people towards the nature. In recent 2 years, the snow leopard appeared. Mind you, we haven't seen it here for the last 50 years. Just recently, on March the 28th, one of our employees working at a checkpoint managed to capture a leopard on camera and even to take several pictures of it. National parks and other especially protected territories are currently intensively working on implementing the order of the head of state on the development of eco and educational tourism. Multiple efforts are underway. The world tourism market is characterized by high competition. And thus, in order to attract eco-tourists to Kazakhstan, we need not only to improve the quality of various tourist services, but also increase the number of wild animals in our mountains and steppes. Every national park has a scientific department. Experts study animals and design strategies to use and protect them. Modern conservation science has two important terms: sustainable and adaptive. The former means that renewable resources should be used exactly to the extent not violating the natural ecosystem balance. And the latter indicates that the approaches and techniques used in different locations and under different social and environment conditions should also be different. We are now departing on a wild animal counting mission. Aside from other animals, we will render significant attention to Menzbeer's marmot, one of the endemic species listed in the Red Book. You won't surprise anybody in Kazakhstan with a marmot. These amusing clodhoppers can be seen both in the steppe and in the mountains. Yet Menzbeer's marmot is absolutely special. It lives exclusively in the western Tian Shan. We found an old dummy of this rare animal in the park's collection room. Menzbeer's or Talas marmot was first described by Daniil Nikolaevich Kashkarov, a famous researcher of Central Asia. He noticed that these small dark brown marmots inhabit the same biotopes as ordinary grey marmots but don't generate any hybrid forms with them. Daniil Nikolaevich began studying Central Asian mammals during very hard time for science. In 1920, in the heat of the Civil War, he founded a zoology department at Turkestan Public University that was renamed into Central Asian University in 1924. Many Kashkarov's students became outstanding conservation experts. In 1930, having returned from a trip around the US national parks, he made a report at the Kazakhstan Local History Congress in Almaty. It was called The Principles of Conservation and the Design of Nature Reserves. The main ideas described in the report laid foundation for the establishment of a system of reserves across Kazakhstan. In those days, it was considered one of the best in the former Soviet Union. In 1931, Kashkarov sent a letter to the State Conservation Committee describing the need to prevent the elimination of the saiga in Turkestan region. The timely measures allowed saving this species from extirpation and, in fact, bringing its population up to 2 million heads. The way to Lake Makpal lies through the Kajantau Ridge. These rather low mountains are the forward outpost of the western Tian Shan. We are now on the Cascan Pass of the Kajantau Ridge. Before us we have the magnificent view of the Ugam River Valley. The snow-covered mountains in the distance are the Ugam Ridge. The Ugam River originates in the glaciers of the western Tian Shan and flows into the Chirchik River on the territory of Uzbekistan. There's a small village down below. It's interesting that in winter it gets completely cut off from civilization. Approximately from November, when the first snow falls, and until late April, there is no road at all. You can gather only on horseback or in snowmobiles. On the southern slopes of the Kajantau Ridge, there are several bright red sandstone residual outcrops based on which scientists can investigate the geological past of our planet. Quartz crystals glued together with multicolored cements and clays represent an ideal material for the creativity of the forces of nature. Water and wind had carved so many fascinating sculptures out of sedimentary Paleozoic rock. Some say that the nature works no miracles. Looking around, we can definitely state the opposite, although it does take a lot of time for nature to complete these wonderful creations, as changes in nature occur very slowly. It took 400 million years for seabed to become mountain tops. Thanks to these sections, modern scientists have the opportunity to visually examine the distant past of the Earth. The Ugam and Kajantau mountains have dozens of grottos and solutional caves, where once the primitive people lodged. In these caves, scientists found the remains of not only Homo sapiens, but also other Homo-type hominids that had lived here long before the human era. Partly as a matter of joke and partly seriously, scientists claim that the first woman had picked the first apple exactly here. Baljan, could you come here, please? I want to show you the paradise. Where? Exactly here. Here? Do you know why? No. Because this is Malus sieversii, or Asian wild apple. I read somewhere that Malus sieversii was proved to be the absolutely first and the most ancient apple species, and that all other cultivated apple trees originated exactly from it. This initial genetic material is listed in the World List of Intangible Nature Heritage. The small village of Ogam is sinking in the verdure of orchards on the river bank. Only 20 houses. The life of its inhabitants is this way or another connected with a national park. Some work as park rangers, some render simple tourist services like horse rent or temporary accommodation. Some have apiaries. Now the expedition members need to get a couple of horses and then go to the river bank to have a closer look at the vicinities as soon as possible. The children in the Owl don't really like modern gadgets or computer games, as they have much better, active and healthy entertainments. By 5 years, every boy in the village becomes a true Jigit. Strong, brave and dexterous. In the gorge, the river is rough and breaks into several sleeves in the valley. Its banks are overgrown with tugai thickets. Despite severe winters, fruit crops feel themselves really comfortable in the Ugam Valley. On both river banks, there are terraced orchards. The Tugai woods are full of life, but it's quite a task to get through them. We hope to take some pictures of a roe or a boar, but in such thickets, it's difficult to creep up to an animal unnoticed. If photo hunting is not good, why not do some herb picking? Let's make some St. John's wort tea and add some dog rose to it. Yes, and also add some wild rose leaves. The Ugam is famous for its large marinka. In February, huge fish weighing up to 5 kilos leave the Charvak reservoir on the territory of Uzbekistan and go up along the Chirchik and Dugam rivers for spawning. At present, the fish in the river is small, but even it doesn't always bite. Our film crew went away from the Owl for about 5 kilometers. The sun was bright and, as they say, nothing was hinting to the upcoming bad weather. Suddenly, the horizon in the west has darkened and the clouds covered the sky. This is how it happens in the mountains. Just a minute ago, the sun was shining and now heavy rain is coming in. Bad luck, but we have nothing except this sleeping mat here. This sleeping mat is mine. I understand and don't even hope for your kindness. At least I will not get any wetter, as I'm already drenched. The rainstorm ended as unexpectedly as it had started, and the Rainbow Bridge appeared over the river. After the rain, everybody is in high spirits. This is what they call horse joy. Today is Ramazan night. One of the traditions of this holiday is to invite travelers to your home. Tumenbai invites the expedition members for lunch. At dinner, we are talking about the old times and former missions to the mountains, about adventures and various legends. Tumenbai Aga tells a story about the area called Galia Togai, and we decided to get there this way or another. 8 kilometers below the village, the river goes into a narrow canyon. The green thickets on the opposite side are exactly the Galia Togai. This is the last human housing on the route. After that, it's only wild mountains. The place is called Galia Togai. Togai means woods near the river. And Galia is the name of a famous sorcerer that used to live here. Once a certain Galia had lived here. They say she was a sorcerer. Now Fyodor and Yelena live here. They have an apiary. Fyodor, did you hear anything about this Galia? In fact, I did. She lived here before the revolution. They say she was an enchantress. Rumor has it that Galia treated people by means of some curative sauce. Let's try finding it. The Togai woods are called wild growing. Just look at the cherry plum here. It's also wild, but look how much of it is on the tree. This year we will have a really good harvest. And the hawthorn. These are our Sivir's apples trees. They are beautiful, don't you think? And these bluish-violet mushrooms here are psychedelic. I don't know how to cook them, but they say that after eating them, you can talk to Queen Tamara. Here is the magical sauce. We don't know what its exact medicinal properties are, but it does look very nice. If the saying that beauty treats illnesses is right, then no doubt it should have some curative power. There is so much noise here that we cannot hear each other. This is Galia Falls. They say that women who couldn't have children used to come here. I don't know whether it's truth or not. Decide for yourself whether to believe it or not. The Ugam Valley has a lot of interesting places for excursions. There are settlements of primitive people, there are burial barrows of later eras. But it's high time for our expedition to head towards Lake Makpao. In long horse campaigns, optimal distribution of weight is extremely important. The cautions consist of two parts. Game manager Daurian accompanying us has calculated that each member of the expedition can occupy only one caution's part with his or her personal belongings. Its second part will be occupied by the filming gear and food. Today the expedition has to cover a long way. The goal is to ascend to 3,000 meters by the evening. From the zone of fruit orchards, we need to reach the level of eternal snow. There are several hundred hectares of old apple orchards here. In the fall, when apples ripen, both boars and bears come to treat themselves to some apples here. The last Jailao or alpine meadow on the route. Following the ancient law of hospitality, the shepherd invites the travelers to take rest in his tent and have some tea. City people are hardly capable of putting their affairs aside for the sake of greeting unfamiliar travelers, which they will probably not see again in their lives. But here this law has been valid for several hundred years. The hardly noticeable trek abruptly goes up. Sometimes it becomes so steep that we need to walk our horses by the bridle. The cherry plum woods are coming to an end, and the expedition enters the alpine meadow belt. At the height of 2,700 meters, we already see snow here and there. Deep gorges cut across the plateau. This is the favorite habitat of alpine ibexes. They hide from predators on steep rocky slopes and graze on wonderful green meadows. The grass cover of the alpine meadows stays green and fresh all summer long and is of significant nutritional value to the ibex. During hot days, the animals go above glaciers to escape the blood-sucking insects. While Baljan is taking pictures of the ibex, Dauren and Galimjan are checking the photo traps. As many other hoofed animals inhabiting mountainous areas, alpine ibex don't get enough salt. Installation of special salt-licking sites can significantly increase the number of these animals. In addition, such sites give ecotourists an opportunity to get good pictures of these mountain beauties. The experience of many countries shows that competent biotechnical measures allow increasing animal populations tens and even hundreds of times. And the opportunity to see wild animals in especially protected areas is a necessary condition of promoting ecotourism. These young ibexes were born in early May, but they have already mastered the subtleties of mountaineering and rock climbing. Ibex population density and herd index are the most important factors of not only their survival, but also the survival of rare predators like snow leopard and Turkestan lynx. Here's another champion of survival in severe highlands conditions. The Kazakhs have always treated mountain turkey ularu with deep respect. The white-headed vulture is the main sanitary worker in the highlands. It can see fallen animals from high above. The vulture's ability to be in the right place at the right time is astonishing. The mother came out for the photo session with her cubs. The cub, of course, needs to climb everywhere and taste whatever it can. It's necessary to explore everything well. What is it? It seems it was not here before. Okay, all the work's done, and now it's time to take some rest. White-fanged bears live in the western Tian Shan. They are smaller than their Siberian relatives, but are excellent rock climbers. The snow accumulates on northern slopes and turns into solid nerve snow or fern. It will stay here until next year. And here at last comes the lake. From above it seems small, but we still have several hours to go to reach it. Photo hunting for Menzbeer's marmots did not turn out an easy business. It takes many hours of walking to find their colony. Having found a hole, it's also hard to approach it closely to take a high-quality shot. Marmots live in colonies. While other members of the free marmot community are feeding to accumulate enough fat for the winter, one sentry marmot is standing upright, carefully watching the surroundings. In case of danger, it makes a sharp whistle and everybody rushes to their holes. In order to reach the lake, it is necessary to first ascend to 3,000 meters and then descend down to 900 meters above sea level. This is Lake Makpal. It's fantastic. It was foggy all day long. It even drizzled some in the morning, but we got lucky and the sun got out in the evening. Just look how awesome it is. It's great to lie around the campfire in the evening telling stories and legends. A young hunter fell in love with a Bai's daughter called Makpal. The greedy father didn't want to let her daughter go with an ordinary man. The hunter went to the mountains and offered his soul to the Iblis living in a distant cave. The evil ghost didn't refuse the lover, and the hunter signed his oath with blood on the cave's wall. Several days later, rich guests from the city came to their owl for hunting. They liked the strong young man and took him with them. It turned out that the guests were actually robbers. The courageous hunter was promoted in the gang and became rich. He came to Makpal's father again asking for his daughter's hand, and the greedy father agreed. For a while, the girl was happy, but after some time noticed that her husband was not the strong and noble young man she once knew and loved. Having sold his soul to the devil, he turned into a mean, greedy and heartless person. Out of grief, Makpal ran away to the mountains and drowned in the lake. In the morning, the outdoor KZ film crew went to the mountains looking for the cave mentioned in the legend. We were not confident that we would find the ancient residence of the evil Iblis, but having surveyed several caves around, we decided that one of them could have very well been the place from the legend of Makpal. Something or somebody definitely lives here. Have a look. You know what? It's not a fireplace, but an ordinary bear's den. Here are its tracks. The bear brought these branches here to set up a softer bed for itself. Do you see how packed the soil is here? It probably spent the whole winter here. If the evil ghost had ever lived in this cave, it could disguise as a bear for sure. Although judging by the den's size, the bear was quite small. But the aforementioned spirit was probably also of not very high rank if it had engaged in such sinister affairs. In the Ugam Valley, bears don't dig their dens as their Siberian relatives. They find grottos or caves up in the mountains on northern slopes with a lot of snow. At this elevation, the winter snow cover can reach 3 meters and the entrance to the cave will most likely be snow-covered in winter. Bears, unlike small rodents, don't fall into real anabiosis, but actually sleep very tightly all winter long and sometimes even snore. Bear sows give birth to 1 or 2 cubs also during winter, and when they leave the den in spring, the cubs are already grown up and can climb rocks, closely following their mother. It's hard to call the relationships between male and female bears romantic and gentle. A hungry male can easily eat his own children if left unattended by the sow. They say that Lake Makpal doesn't let just anybody see it. In bad weather, it's not the most pleasant vacation spot. If it rains down below in the valley, it snows here. The clay slopes soak with water, making it impossible for horses to walk on them. They can fall and even break their legs. Experienced rangers say that if bad weather catches you in a stone trap, you shouldn't try getting out until the rain or snow stops. The lake has favored us, but then the cloudlets appeared on the horizon and we wisely decided not to wait for the thunderstorm to begin. Our list of mysterious lakes has expanded with Lake Makpao, one of the most picturesque lakes of the Western Tian Shan.